Welcome to Catechism with Catholics over coffee. I'm your host, Jonathan Burnos, and I'm coming to you tonight with a beanie on my head. Not because I think beanies look cool, but because I'm cold, and I can tell you why I'm cold. That's kind of the point of the podcast tonight, is to talk a little bit about why am I wearing a beanie. There's a bigger story to it. But also, it's been some time since we did a podcast, so I wanted to come back from the holidays. And it's January. We're crossing over into February tonight, so February 1st, technically, by the time we launch the podcast. But I'm totally riffing here off the cuff. So we're just going to kind of talk tonight for the podcast and post it, and hopefully connect this to some of the things that we're working on and we're writing. So with Catechism with Catholics over coffee, of course, this is an apostolate that is really dedicated to catechizing our church and the laity, and really getting a deep dive focus into small group formation and how to sustain small groups in the Catholic Church. So that's what we're doing, and I'm excited because we have some great stuff that's being built out, and I'm really close to launching some projects that I've been working on for quite some time. So if you're Catholic, then this podcast is for you. If you're on the fence, if you're Protestant, if you're Christian, if you're an atheist and you're just kind of browsing around and you're wondering what's out there and maybe this sounds appealing, check us out. I'm a convert myself / revert, going way back. I was baptized Catholic. I spent many years kind of wandering away from the church, eventually came back to the church. The last 5 years or so of my journey have been a reversion or a conversion back to being Catholic. And especially the last year, 2 years, I've really been kind of continuing to develop my skill set in apologetics and really taken a deep interest into theology and just reading whatever I can get my hands on. So I'm always open for conversations. I love to, especially in this political climate, if you're joining us, it's February. Of course, we had the election in January. It can be a volatile time to speak on any topic, really, but especially to talk about, religion and religious studies and the Catholic Church. So I'm all about talking about it here on the podcast. Favorite us, check us out on your streaming devices, YouTube, of course. Like and share. Please spread the message, spread the podcast. We're on X as well. Don't have a Facebook yet. Do have an Instagram. We're making the rounds. I'm doing my best. I'm a one-man show, but hopefully we'll be able to grow into the church, and there's a good spot for us. So I wanted to talk tonight about a 40-day fast. The reason why I'm wearing a beanie is that I am currently on a 40-day fast. I did this 2 years ago. Was the first time that I did my first 40-day fast. I wrote a kind of a paper in the end about my experience with that 40 days. I am on day 12 of the 40-day fast this year. I've intensified a little bit more. I am moving into a water and juice only fast. So this is the first time here in about the first 10 days I've actually noticed physically. I began to notice some changes, weight fluctuation. But I wanted to talk about my experience so far in the 12 days. I have a lot of time left to go, but I want to talk about challenges. If you've ever thought about doing a fast, I want to speak to that in the podcast today. I speak to some of the challenges that you'll face if you are going to fast. I definitely encourage you to do it. As I said, some of my writings 2 years ago, it's an incredible experience. My motivation 2 years ago was definitely to develop spiritually, to develop a closer relationship with Jesus. And that was also the motivation this year. I didn't do a full fast last year. I was really disappointed with myself that I didn't fast last year, so I'm glad to be back into the pilot chair here for fasting, and want to talk through it. So again, just kind of free-flowing here, off the cuff, talking about my experience. But one thing I want to start with a 40-day fast is, you really want to evaluate your own health and well-being first before attempting any fast. I do believe in medical science. So as deep as my faith is in my relationship with God, and knowing that God will sustain me as I am in this time of prayer and fasting, and from experiences from many of the saints and from Christ himself, of course, who also fasted and told us not, it wasn't a matter of, if we should fast, it was when we fast. So it was an expectation that we should fast, especially while Christ is away. So that's my goal. But I will say, going into a fast, any type of fast, just, I went to the doctor at the beginning of the year. I had a full physical, and I didn't announce it. Motivation there of going to the doctor was to make sure that I was physically able, didn't have any problems with starting a fast and being able to sustain it. So step number 2, if you make the decision to do that and you've checked yourself out physically, you've had a doctor make sure that what you're going to go through your body can handle that. Just be prepared that, many people, and I think in social media, if you talk to friends and family, they're going to talk you out of it. I think a couple things that I heard often from people, and when I fast, I don't, as far as my public facing with friends and family, I don't announce it. In scripture, in fasting, we learn that you really shouldn't try to make a spectacle of yourself, because if you do, you're kind of defeating the purpose of the fast, or one of the purposes of the fast. So I try not to make a spectacle. I don't announce it. I don't talk about it. I still dress up for work. I try, I'm physically active. I try to participate in some of my exercise and activities. I don't make excuses when I do those things, that I do run out of energy quickly. I don't always feel great. Sometimes I get dizzy because I am kind of, at this point, I'm malnourished. So, but I don't announce it. If I'm asked, I'll talk about it. And if I'm asked from a religious standpoint, questions about why I do it, I'm happy to talk about it. I'm writing at the same time about it. I think it's good to talk about it from that standpoint, to talk about the experiences that you're having, to help prepare others if they're, thinking about doing something like this. So I definitely encourage you to do that. But I also caution you that people will be quick to turn away from it. They'll be quick to tell you that maybe it's not a great idea. You know yourself. So as far as it being a great idea, I will say that it is possible. One of the things that with a 40-day fast, when I kind of shifted over the years from a 21-day Daniel fast when I was a Protestant to doing a full 40-day fast, was right away I heard people say, well, 40 days is too much, right? Your body's not going to be able to handle that. And, you're going to get hurt. You're going to be sick. It's not a great idea right away. And then the other thing that I heard from many people around me, I totally understand where it's coming from, but people would say, well, I couldn't do that. There's no way I could do that. Or I wish I could do that, but my body wouldn't let me, right? I'm not healthy enough to do it. I couldn't go more than 3 days without having protein. And I want to say that, there's a lot of fallacy in fasting. And just like I've found there's a lot of fallacy in being Catholic, there's a lot of outside opinions that aren't really factual, that aren't really true, that I had to experience myself. And I'm here to tell you now that as I've worked through some of those things, I can tell you that, 40-day fast is absolutely possible. It's absolutely something that you can sustain. It's absolutely something that can be very beneficial for you. It can be healthy. It can be a reset for your body, for your immune system. There's so many benefits to it. And I can tell you that many people can do it. I know I'm not going to tell you that everyone can, because there are people with limitations. There are people with physical ailments, with disease, sickness, that shouldn't attempt a 40-day fast. But any type of fasting that you do, can tell you, even for like a sustained amount of time, is going to be a challenge to you physically and mentally, but it's also going to have benefits to it. It's going to have more benefits than it's going to have downsides to it. It's what I've experienced every single time I fasted. The more intense fast 2 years ago compared to this one, I was craving some of those experiences that I had 2 years ago. And I can tell you that I'm having those experiences now, but I'm also having a great deal, a number of challenges also in this round of fasting. It feels longer. I can say, though, my body has been prepared for it. So my body has adjusted quicker this fast than it has in the past, because I think it remembers, or at least it went into autopilot a little bit quicker on some of the feelings that I've had. I weaned off of solid foods pretty quickly this round, just going into a liquid diet. 2 years ago, my 40-day fast, most of the fast I had food. I did eliminate gluten. I did eliminate most wheats. I didn't have breads. I eliminated dairy. Of course, I didn't have alcohol. I didn't have sugar, processed sugars. I didn't have anything with dyes, things like that. So natural foods were vegetables, fruits mainly. No protein, no meat, things like that. So very strict diet. And then eventually, by the end of that fast 2 years ago, I was on a water and juice only by the last 15 days or so. This time I started completely with water and juice only. It's been challenging, but it also in many ways hasn't been challenging like I faced 2 years ago. The hunger pains, those went away fairly quickly. I still get hungry, but it's not painful or it's not distracting like it was 2 years ago. So that's some of the differences. I would say that, some of the benefits that I've seen right away, just in the first 10 days, 12 days of fasting, I feel my body resetting. And I can track this. I can have the data on my phone. I wear a watch when I sleep, so I can track my sleep cycles. I can track my activity, my calorie burn. And I'll say this, I've slept better in the last 12 days than I have the entire last year of not being on a fast. So my body has also reset itself. So I feel like I've flushed toxins out of my body. I have great peaks of energy early in the morning that last through most of the day. I do get tired at the end of the day, but still focusing on some of the positives and the benefits here of fasting. I feel healthier. I actually don't crave the sugars. I don't crave breads, which I'm in love with. I'm a breadaholic. I love bread. I love pizza. I love dairy and cheese. And honestly, when my body, now that I've kind of processed that out, I don't crave it and I feel better. I'm at the point now, and every fast has it's kind of had the same patterns that I've been able to identify, and I write about this. For me, and it's very similar for others, the most difficult part of the fast is the first 7 days, especially in the end of those 7 days. Your body, day 6 and day 7, really, really will crave food. It's really going to feel hungry. But once you get over that first hump, the hunger pains, those cravings, they dwindle down. Sometimes they go away completely. This time for me, this year, they haven't gone away completely, but they are very, very low where I don't recognize them anymore. They don't distract me in my day. I'm not working in my day and I'm not all of a sudden thinking, well, I'm hungry, I should get a snack. Or I don't know, I'm going to finish this task because I'm so hungry. I'm not thinking that. I don't feel that. In fact, I still feel energetic. So that I talk about this a lot, and I've written about this a lot. I recognize when I'm fasting how much time I spend eating while I'm on my fast, because I can't eat. And so I realize how many times I stop in my day and think, I want a snack. I'm bored. I need to go eat something. I'm thinking I need to go eat something. So I realize it because I'm not doing that, and I catch myself in those emotions and feelings. Those go away, but the time, you still have that time back. So the time it takes to go fix food, to have a meal, to have a snack, all that time is now back in my control, or I have that time to decide kind of what to do with. And so realizing that, it's opened up all kinds more time to do other things, right? So there's a great benefit in that. For my professional work, there's a great benefit for that. There's a great benefit for having time in the mornings and the evenings to do some of the personal tasks that I need to do. So that's been really nice. And I always enjoy that. But I'm also really fascinated at how much our culture and everything around us really emphasizes food. I noticed that a lot more, especially in the first 7 days. When I went to a gas station to fill up, I noticed all of the signs for food and junk food and burgers and things like that I can get at the gas station. I notice all the food places that I drive by and the advertisements, and I notice how much people eat around me, which is hard at first. But over that first hump, the first 7 days, it's not as hard to be around people that are eating anymore because I'm more consciously aware and I don't have those hunger pains. Again, it might be different for everybody, but for me, I mean, this is my experience. This is what I've learned from it. And so I just find it fascinating. So I will say this. So we talked about some positives and some benefits. I'll say some of the challenges that I faced. I mentioned some of those challenges with hunger pains in the first 7 days, especially in the end of that cycle. Those are real. Headaches will occur from hunger, from your body adjusting. I did not give up caffeine for this fast. I did give up dairy, so I don't have cream in my coffee like I have or usually do. It does make me appreciate the taste of coffee more. I can tell that the coffee is more robust, more full. I do enjoy it. And also, I'm not having the same intense headaches because I haven't eliminated caffeine. I knew that going into this fast that I wouldn't take out caffeine because I didn't want to deal with the intense headaches that were only due to caffeine and not due to the hunger pains. I can identify both of them. I know what each one feels like. And the combination of the two was really, really made me feel sick. when I attempted this before in 21-day fasts and Daniel fasts in the past. So this was much more doable, made it so much more easier. I look forward to coffee in the morning, in addition to the energy that I get from just the fasting itself. So it's something that kind of helps sustain me. So those are some benefits. Again, some challenges. You will get headaches. They will go away once you get over that first hump. The second hump, 7 days on, in which I'm moving into the middle part of this second hump. For me, my body's recognized that I am fasting, and it knows now that, I'm not putting food into it anymore. So it does shift into burning off fat stores. And I know from 2 years ago, towards the end of this fast, that eventually I'm going to start dipping into my protein, like my muscle mass will start to be eaten. I know that because that's what the body does. Right now, it's burning off fat stores. I know that because of how often I use the restroom. I know that because of the energy spurts that I have throughout the day, that my body's tapping into fat reserves. I know that now because physically I can see the difference in my face. I can see the difference in my body. A great side effect, is the weight loss that you will have. So if you're looking for weight loss, definitely would say, fasting is going to do that, but it shouldn't be the primary reason because there are so many other benefits to fasting besides weight loss. I'm going to take this as a secondary. It's definitely not something that I was looking for. If anything, I use it to recognize the changes in my body and what fasting can do for your body when you're doing it. Let me jump back to benefits again real quickly. I do want to say that my prayer life is very much, it's very deep. I do feel more connected. I am very aware because I pray throughout my day more than I do when I'm not fasting. I mentioned before the time that I get back that I'm not eating, that I'm not snacking, I replace that with either work time or when I'm not working or even during work. When I have those feelings, I kind of pray to myself, pray quietly, and I've increased that. So the point of fasting, one of the purposes of fasting is to draw us closer to God. And God is the provider. God is the sustainer. That's how we were created. And so fasting does that. It does so many more things, but it definitely brings you closer to the Creator because that's how we should live our life in communion with the Father, with Jesus, is in a dependent way. That we can't go through our life alone and independent of our Creator. That's just not how we were designed. My heart doesn't rest until it rests in you, O Lord. So, St. Augustine, you're totally on. Totally tell you the fasting, I get it. I get it more and more. So I draw closer to God because I know the only way that I can make it through a 40-day fast on water and juice only is if I'm clinging to God as my provider, that God will bring me through this. That is the deep, deep religious, spiritual experience, my prayer life. That is what's happening with me. My dependence, I am just clinging to the Father. I'm praying to Jesus, offering my suffering up that I'm going through physically and mentally. Every single time I face it, I offer it up to God. It's suffering because Christ offered it for me when he went to the cross and died for my sins. So that's how I'm thinking when I'm praying. And fasting definitely brings you closer to God in that way. Flipping over to some of the challenges. Fasting will also increase temptation, and it will increase the amount of temptation and the sources of temptation, if that makes sense. Meaning, of course, the hunger pains for food, those are going to be a great temptation. Your mind's always racing in the beginning on, well, I can just cheat here. I'll have one more of these, or I'll just do this and then I'll fix it tomorrow, right? You fall off the horse, get back on. One, it's okay. If you make a mistake, if you break your fast, if you do something and you're not happy with it, you can fix it. Just start over. Just go right back to fasting the next day. Offer it up in prayer. Ask for God to continue to help you and guide you, and then continue on, right? You can decide when your fast is over. It's between you and God. That's between you and the relationship with him. But I really encourage you to pray over that. Discern every day, discern all the time about what you're doing in the fast. But then recognize that even things that weren't temptations before become temptations. We talk about filling time. Remember, I'm filling time with prayer. Well, also on the flip side of the coin, more temptation with other things. You might be hangry because you're hungry. So you're angry. You're not in a good mood. You're irritable. I've been short a few days. I feel it creeping up in my mind that I get tired of talking to people sometimes a little bit quicker than I have before. So you have to deal with some of those things. You also might have temptations of, during this fast, I try to remove social media. I try to remove television, movies, video games, things like that. That will make you irritable. When your mind wants to do something that you are in the habit of doing, your brain will really fight your body. It will really fight you in trying to do those things. You'll justify it. You'll make excuses. You'll try to find ways to cheat. And I get disappointed when those times come up, when I do look into social media, when I do take Facebook off my phone, but then I put it back on because I'm justifying looking at, the election results, or I want to see social media in reaction to new policies and the new administration, things like that. Those are excuses. And I recognize what they are after I do them. And then once I'm in the temptation and I'm committing whatever it is that I said I wouldn't do, I'm being dishonest with myself. I bring it back in prayer and I reset. I can say for me, and this is going to be different for everybody, but I struggle more with the mental temptations and the mental part of the fast more than I do the physical part. I'm not having a problem at all with taking away these foods. I don't get tempted. I can see candy that I love. My favorite candy is red licorice, Twizzlers. My son will eat it in front of me now in bowl. So I get it. I get it, kind of a tickle out of it. I think it's funny. I make a joke out of it, but I'm not physically tempted to eat a Twizzler, even though they're dangled in front of my face. I am really tempted to watch things like television, movies. I'm interested in jumping on the PlayStation every once in a while because I'm bored. Instead, what I need to do, and this is kind of a tip going back to the beginning of the fast, when you do fast preparation or when you're early in the fast, you have to create or find things to leave around the house next to your bed where you would normally grab your phone and take a look at social media. You can grab a book, for example, and you can read. I put these all over my house in different places where I stop and wait or listen, or, if I'm bored or if I'm making my juice smoothie or whatever. Next to my bed, I will put books. I will put notepads for taking notes. I'll put highlighters, things like that, because they'll keep my mind busy. And if anything, I'm going to say last resort, but a great tool just in general is prayer, but the rosary is a fantastic tool no matter what. You hear the rosary called basically our sword or our weapon. It absolutely is. So, when in doubt, when you're feeling temptation, when you're feeling the urge to commit sin or break your fast or do something else that's not, reading or putting time into your fast relationship with God, then the rosary is absolutely wonderful about pulling you back into it. So I can't promote that enough. Can't say enough about the rosary. If you're Catholic and you have a rosary, pray it every day. All the time, but especially during a fast, it's going to be your best friend. You're going to be praying a rosary a lot. So these are all things, again, the challenges I face every single day are, they're constant and they intensify as the fast continues. I'm a big football fan. You guys can see the Kansas City Chiefs football helmet back there. I've got a Royals hat back there. There's never a good time to fast. Some of you might go into the traditional time of Lent to fast, and I think that's a fantastic time. There's always something else going on, right? I had politics. I had the presidential election. I also have the Super Bowl coming up next weekend, and that's going to be difficult. That's going to be almost halfway through my fast. Actually, that's the halfway point. 21 days is going to be the day of the Super Bowl. That people are going to be eating tons of amazing food around me. There's going to be barbecue. That's my favorite. Everyone's going to be celebrating. And I'm going to watch the game. I'm giving myself a couple different points to relax the fast. And you can do this in the beginning of the fast. I knew these things were going to come up. And so because I knew the temptation would be great, and I don't want to stand out from everybody else, I don't want to be a spectacle, I allow myself some things like a Super Bowl game, right? Or watching the Chiefs play. Those are some rewards for continuing the fast for me. But I know there's a lot of temptation with some of those things that I reward myself with, like watching a Super Bowl game. I know what that comes with. That entails lots of great food. That entails lots of social interaction with people that are going to say, oh man, you're fasting? Well, that's... And they're going to make comments. They're going to eat things in front of me on purpose, and they're going to poke and fun at me, and they're going to joke. And that's going to be really, really hard. But again, I'm going to have my rosary in my pocket. I'm going to be reminding myself of why I'm fasting, both before, during, and after. So, but I definitely encourage you to do things like that. I definitely encourage you, again, to learn more about fasting. I'm going to post some articles online, and I'll try to link it into the podcast. But, check it out if you have questions about fasting. I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to reemphasize going back to the very beginning. If you want to fast, you definitely can. Mentally, you can fast. Anyone can fast for a given amount of time, challenging amount of time, but you can do it. I promise you, no matter how difficult it gets, you have the ability to do it. You can't do it alone. You have to do it through prayer. You have to do it through the Father, through God, through Jesus Christ, through our mother. There's many different people and resources that are there to help you, but you can definitely do it. So don't let the culture, don't let people around you talk you out of doing this. If it's on your heart, if you feel like I'd really like to try this even for just a couple days, I definitely encourage you to do that. While we're coming up to Lent, do a small fast for Lent. Give up meat on Fridays like we're supposed to for Lent. These are some things that if you haven't done it before, definitely give it a try. When I talked about the rosary very early on, as I'm reverting back to the church, the rosary was one of those things I was very uncomfortable with, but everyone said if you just pray it even when you don't feel comfortable doing it, but pray it every day, then it's life-changing. And it has been. Fasting is the same way. I look forward to fasting every year. I look forward to the full 40-day fast. Again, the timing is always difficult. It always will be. There will always be things that will come up in the middle of your fast that will make you question why you're fasting. But I promise you, if you hold close to the fast, for you and your relationship with God, you will experience life-moving relationship, life-changing prayer. You will receive answers. You will feel close to God in your fast because Jesus Christ did it, and we should do it. And so if you haven't, if you've contemplated, I definitely encourage you to do it. Reach out to me. You can email me, comment on the post, the podcast, and let me know. I'd love to connect with you. Love to kind of help coach you and guide you along. There's a ton of interest in fasting. I see it every year. It's kind of like the gym, though. A lot of people start it and then they back out or they stop, or we put it in our New Year's resolutions and then we don't do it. I promise you, if you give it a shot, if you're interested in doing it, it's worth it. It's worth it, every bit of it. I'm a huge advocate for fasting and the benefits that come from it. So I'm happy to talk through it. I'm going to continue to update through this fast. You'll see me towards the end of the fast. You're going to see physically that you're going to see the weight change, but I'm going to talk about the benefits by the time I get to the end of the fast. And I guarantee by the time I'm at the end of the fast, as tired as I may be, I'm in love with it and I'm going to continue to do it. And I'll probably do it again next year. So thank you all for checking us out here at Catechism with Catholics Over Coffee podcast. I didn't have any coffee because it's in the evening, but can't wait to catch you back next time. You guys take care. Stay Catholic. Pray your rosaries. Do the fast.